This morning we are going to be chatting about the boundaries that come with your goals and setting your goals. I think in January and the beginning of February we all have really great goals, and goals are great and we talk about them a lot in this podcast and in your programs. If you have goals in place and we're setting new goals each week and you don't have a boundary around that, then there's not as much point in your goals as you might think. So this podcast is for the women that have felt overwhelmed trying to do it all, which I am very well aware that is every single one of you. Exercise every day, do all your meal prep, cut out all the snacks completely. We are not focused on extreme within Barbells and Babies, and I think you're all well familiar with that. We have to break it down, the small realistic steps. And sometimes we lose sight of how important the small realistic steps are, because they're the boundaries that you're setting around to reach your ultimate goal. So just let that one sink in. All the small little habits that you might feel like, oh, I didn't do that this week, they are the boundaries that add up to your goals. So boundaries are something that I talk about when it comes to saying no and being okay with saying no to going to things, or if you're just overstretching yourself every single week, we need to have some boundary in place. But where your boundary can come in as well is saying no to unrealistic expectations. And that's why your programs are so customized and we change as you go, because your lifestyle can change a little bit week to week too. And you need to keep it realistic for what fits into your life. And yes, to progressing at your own pace. So the big problem is we set goals and we view this as all or nothing. And that backfires. That happens a lot of us. It backfires because you can't do it all. You can't do absolutely everything every single week. Work gets busy, the kids get sick, your motivation is a little bit lower. And then instead of you sharing this with me and us adjusting your plan, you feel like you failed. And you say, oh no, I'll give myself another week to kind of pick it back up. And then it doesn't happen. And then you feel like you've completely fallen off the wagon. I know this is going to resonate with so many of you today. So instead, let's just look at the boundaries that you can put in play when it comes to your goals, because that will not only protect your energy around you hitting your goals, but it will keep you less overwhelmed and that you're still making progress across the week. So I've broken this down into 5 steps just so it appears more manageable as well, and you can focus on each step, or you can pause the episode, write down what you want to focus on yourself for these boundaries towards your goals, and then you can send them to me. If you want, you can send them to me in the app. I love to hear what you're setting for yourself, and you'll also see that the smaller goals I set for you, or the smaller changes I'm recommending, is so that we get these boundaries in play towards your goals. So step number 1 is setting a non-negotiable minimum. Now, I've spoken about this before, your minimum and your maximum. So instead of saying, right, I have 4 workouts to complete this week, my step count must be a 10k every single day, and unless I complete everything, then I'm failing. So instead of saying any of that, you're going to focus on, do you know what I'll do? I will move my body in some way for 30 minutes, 2 to 3 times in the week, no matter what happens. So if you can't fit the gym in, you can fit in a walk. If you can't get to the gym, or the kids are sick, or you don't have a program for at home, you're going to jump into the on-demand section of the workout. You're going to fit in something for yourself because you're more focused on the minutes of exercise than everything that needs to be done. If you're struggling with back pain right now, you might say, okay, I'm going to commit to doing 5 minutes in the morning. Every single morning, before I look at my phone, I'm going to do 5 minutes of stretching that Julianne has already given me. So that could be your non-negotiable minimum. You will have weeks that you hit your maximum, and that's great because that just means you have over-excelled. But setting a minimum for yourself is exactly what we need to continue on a really good path, because first few weeks you will say, I can keep hitting the maximum until something happens, and then you feel like you failed because you're not hitting the maximum on that week. So step one is set your minimum. Now, for a lot of you, I will have done that for you because you came into the program with an all or nothing mindset. So we start off slow, work up, set the minimum. Look at what you're doing in the first 2 weeks. If that's your maximum, then look at, okay, if I have a really crappy week, what can I actually do? And that's your minimum. And write it down somewhere so that on the weeks where life gets busy, you still remember that I still achieved what I needed to achieve. Step number 2 is probably one of the most important ones for you all, is choosing one change at a time. So within your check-ins and within your programs, we will focus on 4 pillars every single week. And that's your 4 pillars that keep you upright, that keep you moving forward and keep you progressing. But when we're focused on change, we're looking at one change at a time. So let me give you an example. For a lot of you, your one change will be you want to lose weight, or you want to build muscle, or you want to run a 10K, or you're focused on getting back into your jeans. That's one change. Within that one change, there will be smaller steps to get you there. And sometimes if you're just focused on, okay, I want to lose weight, I want to do this, that and the other, I want to run a marathon, you forget about the smaller steps. So the smaller steps can be as simple as, I will go to bed 15 minutes earlier at night time. I will get up half an hour earlier than everybody else in the house in the mornings. I want to drink a little bit more water during the day. So what I'm going to do is start my day off with a glass of water before I have coffee. It could be I want to eat more protein. So the first meal I'm going to look at is my breakfast meal. It's going to have more protein in it. And then all of a sudden your whole day sits higher. But you're choosing one change, just one at a time. And week by week we will work through this. And you have to look at what gives you the most bang for your buck. That's a phrase I use a lot on social media. More bang for your buck, because I feel like as parents, you need to get the maximum out of doing the minimum. That is through your workouts, that is through your nutrition, through your meal times, that we're not relying heavily on snacks to bring up protein intake, to bring up your nutrients. You want to get the most bang for your buck. So you're looking at one change at a time. Where I would really start with that, ladies, for every single person, is your sleep of some degree where you can. A lot of us stay up later than we need to. And I will openly admit it is painful some nights to go to bed when Jackson goes to bed. I love that even 45 minutes of time to myself in the evenings. But some nights you really do need that extra time in bed at night time so that you can get up at your usual time in the morning. And that will stand to you. So that could be your one change. Or it could be that you're going to sleep without the phone in the room or put the phone on sleep mode. The longer I have been a coach, the more I realise that sleep and social media are huge factors in your overall health that a lot of us are just skimping over, and alongside skimping over your meals, that you're skipping meals. So choose one just for this week, choose one that you're going to focus on. It could be before I have my coffee in the morning, I'm going to have a glass of water first. Before the clock strikes 2 p.m, I will have hit 5k steps. For the next 7 days, I will go to bed 20 minutes earlier and put my phone on sleep mode at that time, or even half an hour before I go to bed so I stop scrolling. They are small little shifts, but I just want you to pick one for the week ahead, the one that you feel will give you literally the most bang for your buck. Step number 3, we are looking at creating good enough boundaries. So instead of your boundaries being resorting towards all or nothing, like I have to eat clean all week, I have to do everything that is on my meal plan, what you want to try instead is the conscious choices. So I will choose balanced meals 80% of the time. And if I have a day out on the weekend, when I indulge or when I have something that has not been exactly what I would plan in a calorie deficit stage, I'll enjoy it guilt-free, and I will also enjoy getting back to it the following morning, getting back to my normal routine, because you will look at it like it's a more flexible boundary. But not every day will be perfect. It's not something I look for in your programs is perfection. Something I look for in your programs is consistency across the week to week. And I've often told a lot of you that if I see a week that looks a little bit less than consistent, a little bit less than 50%, we'll work a little bit harder the following week to balance it out. But it hasn't done any damage. It's not the big thing. The big thing that does that damage is you saying to yourself, oh, that's it. Fuck the lot of it now. There's no point me trying anymore. Sure, I had 4 higher days this week and that's the whole week gone to pot. You have 52 weeks in the year. Please remember that. You have 52 weeks. I don't expect every single week to look like absolutely perfect, and I'm not going to scold you for it either. But think of, if you have a treat, will you pair it with a meal afterwards that is more in line with what you would expect to be eating at this moment in time? If you have a breakfast or a brunch meal out, maybe your next snack is a fruit or protein-based snack, that there's a little bit more colour, carbs, protein, that's what you're aiming for. It doesn't have to look perfect, but for consistency to come in and play, you want a good enough boundary, but not an all or nothing boundary. So, step 4, protecting your time and your energy. Ladies, I've written these all out so I can clear them, give them to you clearer as your steps to put in place. So, a lot of us struggle with prioritizing ourselves, and I can fully understand with you when you don't do this for yourself, because I do it regularly myself. But you can't pour from an empty cup. I can't help all of you if I don't invest in my own health and fitness. I can't keep myself on the daily organised and less overwhelmed if I actually don't work out and eat my regular meals. So the boundary that I'd be looking at putting in play there is stop putting your time and your exercise time last on the list. Stop making sure that you have everything else done before you give yourself that time. Because what will happen is, on the busier weeks, your earlier things that we spoke about, your non-negotiables, your minimum, your maximum time, that will all start to deplete. And you still won't even make time for your minimum non-negotiables. So a way to shift that boundary is, what do you schedule in your life that you wouldn't miss? And I want you to create that sort of schedule for your minimum non-negotiables. So it could be, I'll block out 20 to 25 minutes, 3 days a week. Whether that is for me to go for a walk, do my workout, get to the gym, or I just need 20 minutes to sit down and do nothing for 1 day in the week. But you need that boundary in place, and you need to schedule it like it matters just as much as everything else does in the house. Because believe me, I have done it as well, especially with home workouts. I have said to myself, do you know what? I'll just get that load of washing done now and hung up and put away before I do my workout. And do you know what happens? The workout doesn't get done. But the reality is the washing still would have gotten done. I still would have made the time to do that. In fact, I'd be more energised to do it after I have my workout done, and I'll probably do it in half the time. So step 4 is protecting your time. Look at your calendar for the week ahead. Do you schedule in any time for yourself? Do you schedule in even 5 minutes? Do you have an allotted time where you go for a walk and that's your time? To even just regulate yourself, to have that break. If you don't, that's what I want you to look at this week. And then step 5. So you're setting, this is probably the most important boundary. And I can't stress this to you all enough because I hear it a lot. You're going to set a boundary against the negative self-talk, which we've already spoken about in January. But the way you do talk to yourself really, really matters. So if you wouldn't say it to one of your friends, or if you wouldn't say it to your children, don't say it to yourself. Please stop speaking to yourself in a negative pattern, especially when it comes to your body and how you feel and what you look like, and nitpicking at your body. So instead of thinking, I messed up with my diet on the weekend, say to yourself, I made a choice. I made a choice that I'm not too happy with, but I can make a different choice the next time. Every choice I make every single day can be a conscious one or one I make in the heat of the moment. So you can always make a more conscious choice. Give yourself that 5 seconds before you decide what your next thing to eat is. Give yourself 5 seconds before you react. And it sounds like such a silly thing, but as a female that coaches females as well, I have been there where the negative self-talk starts to creep in, and it doesn't help anybody, and it certainly doesn't help your progress week to week. There are so many of you that will focus over on the scale and say, I'm not losing weight, and you haven't even begun to look at your inches or your food or the actual progress you've made in the gym or on your strength training sessions where you've built muscle, where you can physically see the changes on your body, but you let yourself into the mind frame of it's the scale and I'm still fat. And I hate that word, but I hear so many of you use it over the course of a week to myself, and I really want you to stop using that word to describe yourself. You are on a journey. You are on a weight loss journey or a journey of improving yourself. And as you move through the smaller daily boundaries that you put in place, the negative self-talk does reduce. But speaking to yourself in a negative manner, you're just reinforcing the idea that this is how you are. This is how you feel. And you will have come across it with females that have previously been heavy and now they are a lot lighter. They still don't see themselves like that because they never worked on the negative self-talk. They still look in the mirror and see, I'm still not good enough. I'm still going to nitpick at every single part of my body. You have to use your own progress as well as a reflection as to how far you've come. You will always shift the boundary. You'll always push the boat further. You'll always say, I can go a little bit more with this. I can do more. And that's a good way to be, because you are constantly working on self-improvement. You're never going to be done with that. We all have slip-ups and we all have periods where you can find yourself slip back into the negative self-talk. But I want you to really pause and reframe on that. So if you catch yourself being critical towards yourself, even if it's thought processes, pause and reframe it. Pause and think, okay, what can I say to myself differently here? Not only are you doing your best, but the next time, what can you do differently? How are you going to change this? How are you going to flip this script? Ladies, I've given you 5 steps within this, whether you need to pause and re-listen. But I don't want to overextend this episode. I want everybody to get a chance to listen to it. I want you to consider your progress rather than being perfect. I don't expect anybody to be perfect every single week. Lord knows I am not perfect. You need that non-negotiable minimum. I want you to sit down and look at that yourself. What is your minimum? That on your really, really stuck weeks, what is going to fit in? Your boundaries with your goals aren't going to limit you. They are not going to restrict you in your life. A lot of people think that about setting goals and setting boundaries about your bedtime and your water intake and eating right. They're not restricting you. They are actually giving you more time. And you will hear this in our book episode. It does free you up for a lot of overwhelm and set you up for long-term success. You'll quit wasting time on stuff that is just not important. You'll quit wasting time on the negative self-talk, and you'll quit wasting time on wondering what you'll do next. When you get into the boundaries and you get into your goals, the smaller habits are really the thing that are going to add up to this long-term success for you. So as always, I want your feedback on this episode. I want you to focus on what is in front of you on your dashboards, because that is the most important. Day to day, week to week, lean into the groups. If you're struggling as to what you want to set a boundary on, even just drop me a message in the app or share your thoughts in our WhatsApp group. Take a deep breath. You don't have to do it all the one day. You don't have to do it all the one week. Just take a deep breath, pick one, a small step, and then it will all flow from there. So, ladies, it's Julianne. I am finished this episode for today with you all. Please do let me know what you think of it, and I will chat to you all on your check-ins.